It's my turn, and thank you for allowing me to come. It's always so nice to come here from Newbury. I don't really feel like it's a burden at all. It uplifts me, and if anything, I feel sorry for the other monks that didn't get the opportunity. Bhante Arun Vihari hasn't been here for a while, and so we need to get the other monks coming here as well. But it's nice for me to be here. Actually, I thought I don't get an opportunity anymore. I will be going to Finland, visit mom and dad there, teach some Dhamma there, see other people. Then there's going to Poland after that. Going to England. There's a bit of a traveling coming my way. After the Vesak, I will leave. I've been with this building project now. I think we've been going something like 2.5 years, so it's enough. And I'm not the only one. I think we have a wonderful team in our building work, and there's a lot of work for there. And if you don't know what we're building the new retreat center in Newbury. And the cottages are coming close to be finished. The painting is done and whatnot. Outside we're starting to do the landscaping. So it's nice to see that actually it's coming to fruition. It's a lot of work. And as many of you know, in Melbourne and many places in Australia, it's difficult to build at the moment. It's hard to find builders and everything is so expensive. But we succeeded on this project. I think we are coming. And it's nice to see always things coming to an end. And Buddhism endings are the ones which we should be rejoicing of, not the new beginnings. When we get a baby, we should look at like, oh, here you go. That's not good. But when somebody's dying, you wish them, I hope they're never going to come back. When somebody leaves, you should wishing me like, oh, Mudito, bon voyage, I hope we don't see again. Good riddance. Not in a good riddance is, I like that word. I remember when I learned that, I saw a T-shirt in the United States, and I saw this T-shirt, and there was it's actually a punk band in San Francisco, and I saw this T-shirt in a thrift shop, and because I always like words, and I saw this word on this, and it was George Bush's head, and there was like written in front of it, it said good riddance. And I asked somebody, what does this good riddance mean? And they said, like it's nice to get rid of something. I always thought it was an interesting word, good riddance. So good riddance, Mudito, he's leaving. But I think I'll be back after the Vassa. So I go for the range retreat. It's still a little bit away, but I've already booked a ticket to go to Perth from Europe. So I'll go stay the Vassa for Perth, and then I'll probably come here. There's still some probably work to be done in the retreat center. But it's the endings are the ones. Ajahn Brahm, who's my teacher, always said, Ajahn Chah said that one of his favorite things is endings are his favorite things, when things are coming to an end. And I was just thinking that it's one of the reasons why when we think of somebody like the Buddha, who was a person who got the wheel going again, get the Dhamma rolling, he ended it all. For us, we are constantly in this cycle of rebirth. We keep trying to do the best with the suffering. The suffering is constant in our lives. It comes with the new forms in this. As a human, there's some kind of suffering always lurks somewhere. Don't think you're going to somehow become wise in this life and just get rid of suffering. That's not going to happen. You are in the wrong place if you think you're going to do that. Maybe go some other religion. I'm sure there's Sunday sermon somewhere else. Eternal bliss, it's not offered here. It's the wrong place. We give you suffering. But the nice thing is that we also offer the path away, which leads to the end of suffering. And this is the path what we are doing here. The Buddha did not say that the wisdom is what we are, what's the end of all things. Getting this deep meditation, jhanas, is all the end of things. why we're practicing this. The Buddha taught this path to end it all. And what you are really ending is suffering. It's an interesting thing, but to contemplate that everything in this life eventually is suffering. Having loved ones is a suffering. Why is having loved ones suffering? Because we will get separated from our loved ones. That's why it's suffering. Everything which we hold dear in our life is also suffering. But the nice thing is always we have to remember that when we let go of this attachment to anything in life, it actually is happiness. So everything has that up and down. The coin has two sides. All the endings, all these strong attachments, you're getting attached to your house, you get attached to your children and your partner and your health and your wealth. All of those things we have to start looking with a different perspective. Your children don't really belong to you. They just come to your life. They have their own karma, They go through their own karma. You take care of them the best of your abilities. You take care of the best of your ability, your work. We retreat center, I've taken care of the best of my ability. What my role is here is being on this part of the building team. And now I have to just move on, for a while at least. And then when you don't hold something so dearly, so that, for me it would be if I start almost owning this project, if I start taking that I did this. I can feel proud of that, what I've done. I can look back and I remember all the problems we had and with the way we solved and everything, and you sort of step back and say, I did that. We're coming to an end of creating a wonderful place for everybody to meditate. I put a lot of effort into it, but if I start owning that project, it's just gonna create a lot of suffering for me. So I just see the project as a wonderful thing I did, a wonderful effort I put for to help others. Not that it's my building. Any of that would create me suffering. So the same way you can see, whether it's your children, for example, you could just see that you put the best of your effort and things didn't turn out the way maybe you expected it to turn out with your children, for example. But don't feel guilty about it. Just admire the good pieces you've done, the good effort you put in. And the same with your work. You do the best of your ability and then try to develop an effort, which is the skillful effort. Sometimes we teach in Ajahn Brahm teaches that it's a skillful effort of letting go, not getting attached to anything. Be able to walk away from anything in life. And more you are able to walk away from life, whatever it is, the less of a burden it becomes. Hold anything not with tight grip, but with able to let go. It's almost impossible. Sometimes I thought about this thing about Nibbana, and sometimes for me it sounded like something like the way the Buddha left. It sounds quite hard actually, that you abandon your family and you leave everything behind and you just walk out of the door and never look back. But if you think about in your own life, imagine for yourself, if you would be walking out of the door, you see the front door in your apartment, in your house, and somebody comes and tells you, you can never go back. You can never go back to your own house. You can never go and see your family again. You can never, they give you another pair of clothes and they just say, keep walking and never look back. It's impossible. We always want to look back and say, like, that's my family, that's my house, those were my clothes. It just cannot happen. How it actually happens, why you leave it behind is because the turning away is gradual. You attach yourself less and less to those things. You cannot by will. Will alone doesn't take you there. You cannot turn away from all of your attachments all of a sudden. And that's why what the reason is, because eventually that day comes where this practice comes to the final point where you have to walk away. They put you in this nice piece of clothing and you are lying there in a box. You're not going back. They won't take you in that box back to home and live, continue living with you. That box goes to a different direction and the family goes back. And you are not really in that box. It's just a body. But if that time when you start separating from this body in this lifetime, you are not so strongly attached many things in this samsara. You go in the direction which you're hopefully not coming back. Hopefully there is a turning away, hopefully turning away have happened before, so you don't keep repeating this cycle of endless samsara. The Buddha said when somebody develops a good meditation, mindfulness, you can recollect not just previous lifetime, but many, many, many lifetimes. We have possibly, but if you read the suttas, they use these words like hundreds of thousands of lifetimes. So you see expansions and the universes which expanding and keep coming and now crashing. So you see many, many universes coming and going if you have deep meditations. So take a bigger perspective into this life. Have a little bit of bird's eye view into how am I doing here? Is this really leading towards happiness? Or am I creating more and more suffering in my life? If something happens drastic, are you able to just let go? Ajahn Brahm has this, sometimes he asks this question about if somebody dies, whoever it is, and you are surprised, well, that should be a sign for you that there is attachment there. So anything happens in life, if you surprise, you should be seeing that as that's teaching. That teaches me the turning away. If you see a lot of suffering in your life, you should be realizing that I'm doing something which is not right here. How can I turn this into, how can I see the other side of this coin? It's not that we inherently have to suffer. If you're further in the path, if you keep walking this path of letting go, renouncing, be able to be kind towards what comes to your way, less suffering will follow. Samsara always gives us this kind of curveballs. We think we're going to solve one problem and then we'll be fine. But another thing which is nice from Ajahn Brahm, he's got that question about, and then what? I solve this problem, and then what? I just get this thing out of the way, and then what? I buy this thing which seems to provide me a lot of, which promises a lot of things, especially in the shopping center, and then what? And then what? Don't become this kind of person who's always expecting that I just get this one thing out of the way and then it will be fine. It won't be. It won't be all good. There will be another one coming to your way. It's always, of course, it's a relief when things come into an end. So see the endings as a good thing. Something has ended. Marriage has ended. Let's not get married again. Relationships broken, yes, it's of course it's difficult, and you carry, but see it as a relief. Don't run into always another thing. I see in the building side all the time, we have this constant busyness in building side, and we're trying to solve problems all the time. And I see it with our builders all the time. They really try to rush the job, get it out of the done with, even if it's not correctly done, but I just want to move on to the next one and to the next one. And what do? They finish this one and then they rush to another job and they just try to rush to get that done. But they just do the same thing over and over again. Why do you need to rush? Why do you need to try to get this done and be over with it? Because life is not like that. You never be able to do something and be over with it. Unless you don't come back. Unless at least you start seeing slowly that this is not happiness. We are leaning towards the ending. And even if you think, well, nothing is really happening to me, I'm not enlightened yet. But you are here, or you're listening to the talk online. Of course you are. Of course you are leaning towards that direction. You are at least here. For me, obviously I'm being a monk, for me it's at least I'm made to be a monk this lifetime. It's amazing. I mean, the background I come from, like how on earth did I end up being a monk? I see all these Sri Lankans here, you should be all monks and nuns. And Thais and Cambodians and Vietnamese and, definitely. And me from this rural northern part of Finland, it's a miracle. If you want to see a miracle, here I am. It's a interesting thing with this karma we take from life to life. We don't see it. We think we have this strong innate thinking, feeling inside of us, and this is who I am. This is what makes me. But is it really? Who do you take yourself to be? It's anywhere you look. In your mind, who do I take myself to be? Am I this person or that person? And in these situations I'm like that, and those situations I'm like this. Who is me? Who am I? And the further you look, no matter where you look in your life, you kind of find self in that. The self sort of emerges from these situations, and that's how the karma works. That's why Buddhism, the Buddha taught dependent origination, because you are dependently coming into being. Wherever the mind always needs something to reflect itself almost. The self comes from that contact. And it just doesn't just mean a physical contact. Even you do need a physical contact. The body needs a physical contact to be here. Otherwise it starts fading away. Otherwise it's moves on. But mind is the same. Your mind needs a contact. We are almost like mirroring ourselves from the outside world. But there is nothing innately you in there. You see that thing, that mirror, the image, through the mirror of your mind. That's a song, I think. Through the mirror of my mind, time after time, I see the reflection of you and me. It's a love song. Oh, I thought it was a cool love song. So through the mirror of your mind, time after time, you see the reflection of you and that partner. So that's what happens. Through the mirror, it's you appear. But where is you in that reflection? There is no really you there. And those are the things what the Buddha saw when he got enlightened. There is no you in any of those reflections. You need that contact, the passa, which in Pali. You need that kind of reflection. And that's how you dependent origination starts. That because you reflect yourself from that outside world. Same with your mind. The mind needs some kind of contact. You appear. But with this practice, slowly, we don't pay so much attention to that. And if I go back to that idea, which sounds like a stark idea of you turn away, get a new set of clothes, and somebody tells you just walk out and never look back. You cannot do that. You have all these things, attachments. You won't be able to just walk out of the door and not look back. We have those attachments. But once you start seeing those reflections as just reflections, so slowly the turning away happens. It can happen this lifetime. It can happen. I think the Buddha said, within 7 days. But that's I think when you are really close there. But if you take a bigger perspective, we are leaning to that direction. And when you start taking the view of not paying so much attention, not giving it the value of those thoughts, see them as just a leaning point for yourself. Slowly, not all the time, but you start moving away from suffering. You are actually moving away into that direction of not coming back. Not by force, not by willpower, but we see it with wisdom. Every time when you look into your mind, you're creating this the world, and you see the thinking mind, and you reflect that, do I have to be attached to that? Do I have to pay a value to that self-doubt, guilt, anything? It's nothing to do with me. It is just a self looking somehow to exist. When you're meditating and you think the thoughts just come to you, they just come to you. I cannot stop thinking. They don't just come to you from thin air. It's you looking for thoughts to exist. You are always going for looking for the thoughts, bring them in, make something of it. And then new one comes, and they keep coming and coming. It's like an endless stream of thoughts. But it's just you needing to exist. So try to be practical here. When you meditate, the one good effort is, if there is any effort, is not to pay attention to that, not give it value. You cannot push your thoughts away. You cannot stop your thinking mind by will, by effort. In effort, we think of effort. The effort has to be nothing to do with me, None of my business. And then the mind doesn't keep going and pulling those new thoughts all the time. Eventually they will become less distractive, the thoughts, because you don't give it the value. It's almost like a bunch of children screaming at your house, and when you have young ones, it's almost scary when they stop. That's what mothers always tell me. Oh, the mothers say that. It's like that's the worry. When all of a sudden they go quiet, you go like, something has happened. This is not a good thing. So screaming is normal. Yelling and screaming and fighting and playing loud and this and that. And then it goes quiet and you start looking. I better go and look. But the better way is when the mind, that discursive thoughts stop, enjoy it. Just said this was actually a very peaceful moment. Don't go looking for, I don't exist. Don't go looking for this idea that I don't know what to do next. When the thoughts stop, even for one moment, appreciate that. Silence is good. Endings are good. Existing, having thoughts, doing new things, that's where the suffering lies. So always lean towards endings. Always lean towards quietness. Sure, we need to do many things in life, and Buddhist Society seems to create a lot of things for us to do, Adrian, the president. But we just do it and be able to let go. When we do things, we have duties in life. Of course we do. Duties don't end even if you become a monk. Not highly recommended if you think this is the easy life. But when you were doing duties, have that perspective of mindfulness. Have that mindfulness. I can let this disappear. How important is anything you do in life? How important is this? Will this lead into my happiness, or will this just add into my suffering? If it adds into your suffering, what can I do about it? If there's nothing to do, well, don't do anything. If there's something to do, if you can solve the climate change, change things, change your spending habits. If you can contribute somehow, do it. But if there's nothing you can do, if you have climate anxiety, the best thing is to have a peace of mind. If you can end the wars in this world, well, help with that. But if there is nothing much you can do, just realize that the peace of mind is more important, or not more important. The peace starts from their own peace of mind. You won't be able to stop the wars in this world. There's always idiots out there who think it's a good idea to go as a nation, to go against another nation. Stupidity is given. What did Einstein say? It's limitless. There's no end to human stupidity. You won't be able to stop that. The only thing you can stop is being a stupid person yourself. And Buddhism, the wisdom doesn't really it's not a wisdom of understanding the suttas, wisdom of what would be wisdom? What would people consider wisdom? You know wise people. What do you consider wise? But in Buddhism, wisdom is actually a wisdom of the heart. It's a wisdom of kindness, able to let go. Wisdom of care. And if you don't have mindfulness or look inside of yourself, you don't really know what caring is. If you don't know what makes you happy, well, you don't really have wisdom. You don't have really care. If you just care about others, your family, the outside world, the world outside of yourself, you don't really have any kind of wisdom. The world is inside of you. The care has to start from there. And that's why we practice. That's why we need to keep practicing now and constantly keep practicing by looking mindfully in our own minds and say, I haven't been very smart. I haven't been able to stop and look inside of myself. Because whatever the effort you put into your own mind, that's what comes out of you. So the practice of letting go, effort of kindness or kindfulness, like Ajahn Brahm says, has to start from yourself. And then it follows from there. It really does. And then perhaps the normal complaint is, well, this is not useful in my work life. My work life, we have to be rational. I cannot be this kind of person who does this, keep this, the Buddhist principles. Again, you have to be able to take a little bit of bird's eye view and look into your life. Is this really so important? Is this really something I need to hold on so dearly that I will keep running with my head sweating all the way to my grave? Or am I leaning towards, do I want to lean towards way, which is I become a person who don't get attached, who is able to let go, lean towards the endings. Remember always, in Buddhism, it sounds a bit too over the top sometimes, perhaps, and it's not maybe useful. But the path is, and the more you see yourself getting happier, you know you walk in the path. Don't be afraid of letting go the things you have accumulated until now. Don't be sad if you haven't done this before and now you feel like you wasted time. At least you are now walking that direction. Perhaps you are old and you wasted a lot of time, you feel, but it's never too late. The wisdom sort of follows you from life to life. We cannot learn not to suffer. That won't happen. But the attitude is what we're changing. We're changing the attitude towards the suffering. These problems in life. We're changing the attitude. That's what we're changing. The way we look at it. Sure, sometimes we still get stressed, and sometimes we are carrying around the worries about health and worries about relationships. But we are changing our attitude. That's what we're doing. We're changing the attitude of how we take this. And when we are leaning towards that direction, it's like it's not a problem which is mine, it belongs to me, this is who I am. Then the suffering is less. And I like the idea of what the Buddha, when he meditated and he became the enlightened one, it's almost like an image of somebody who has really in front of a big holiday which is the total ending of all. So remember that feeling when you're done with big project, or you have a retreat center coming to an end and you're going away. You have a job which is ending. You have a school holiday ahead of you. That feeling where things have come to an end. It's a nice feeling when things end. Don't be afraid of endings. It's actually a relief. So whatever comes to an end, the children are moving away from home, you are moving to next life, things are coming to an end. What else can end in life? Many things. See them as a good thing. Don't go all of a sudden looking for new things. Just enjoy the endings. And the endings are the ones which we should be leaning towards. And obviously the Nibbana is the final ending of all things. And that's the relief. Until then, well, I hope your suffering is less, slowly. I hope my suffering will be slowly, less and less. But let's keep leaning towards that, to the end. And that's the talk this morning.
Thank you, Ajahn Mudito.
Yeah.
We will have questions alternating between the room and online. So perhaps someone in the room would like to start.
Thank you, Ajahn.
You're welcome.
Your talk. I'm just wondering, how do we deal with...
Keep it closer, yeah. I think it's on.
How do we deal with our own intuitive feeling? Like, because people are always, looking forward to new beginnings or, starting. And your idea of leaning towards the ending. So, because, people are always like naturally leaning to new things, new starting and everything. So how do we deal with that internally?
Yeah, right. Yeah, how do we deal with internally the new? You're always looking for a new. Whenever you're starting a new thing, yes, of course, it's nice to be excited about it. For me, I'm looking forward going and the sort of new start in a way that I'll go to another monastery for a while. But you just have to realize that idea of and then what? Take it a little bit towards the end. Like, okay, well, the new start is exciting, but then will this give really will this ultimately give me that much happiness? It's the starting something is always exciting, but whenever we take something, try to start the new phase in life with with an open heart, sort of, but ultimately really comes down into this kind of day-to-day reflection. Because the new thing what you started, it becomes sort of just everyday life after a while. So we need to really, not so much about the reflection of when you're starting, but that everyday life has to become a reflection of this life. Try to lean towards the endings of all things, just to see and then what? Reflection is, I gave a talk a few months ago about anusati, which is reflection of death, for example. Reflect the death, I'm coming, eventually I will die. Reflection of your health, what I have a health now, so enjoy what you have now. A reflection of the teachings, the reflection of the Buddha. Whatever comes to you as a reflection of what can help, how can I live this life that it brings me more peace? Whatever, okay, there's a new start and it's exciting, and then you just sort of forget all the other problems. So there's not much you can do because you are a little bit of absent-minded. But it's almost like that thing, like the Buddha said, there's a praise and blame come in the world, no matter what. It's always praise and blame. It's given. The world always gives those two things to you. They praise you and they blame you. It's nothing to do with you. Praise and blame are, no matter what, do the best job, somebody can still blame you. And even if you don't do anything, somebody might blame you for that, not doing anything. So just with the new things, just go with happy mind, don't be afraid of it, but don't keep having that reflective mind, that anusati, that kind of sati, that kind of memory of the teachings all the time with you. There's nothing with the new startings, it's exciting, but don't take it to be as you or yours, or that will be ending the suffering. I'm not sure I answered your question, but always, tread lightly in life. Go kind wherever you go. There's new startings, but even those change into something else. And whatever you think the future is going to be, it's always going to be different. It's always going to be different. Yeah.
Thank you, Ajahn. The next question from Richard online is about attachment to family and whether that can be undesirable or dangerous. And he says, according to the suttas, the dangerous attachments are to sense pleasures, rites and rituals, views, the view of a self, but they don't say family. So is attachment to family dangerous or undesirable?
Is it dangerous or undesirable? Yeah, it doesn't say that, you're right. It's one of those things where you cannot, it's like you have a baby, it's almost innate that we need to be attached because we need to take care of the baby. In order for somebody to survive, we need to take care of it. Otherwise, the life wouldn't be possible as we know it. Danger is a wrong way of looking at it. You just see it as what it can give you. It can, you can support them, and the family supports you. You take it as a supporting factor. Why we have families, why we have relationships, so it supports you. So its danger is not. It's a wrong way of looking at it. But you take the family as the sort of like a supporting factor for your practice. But I mean, there is a reason why monastics I was just on the building site a couple of days ago, and there was a young man there, and I said, "You have a family here?" And I said, "No, I don't have a family here in the monastery." And sort of, yes, there is a family, which is I'm still a part of family, but as a monastic, we are quite removed, even from my mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters. We are quite removed, and even more so from having relationships. We have to be completely removed from that. The families are there, but we support the family the best of our abilities from the distance. So the family, as a householder, as a lay person, as a family person, take the family as your supporting factor. How can we make this? How is this team, which is our family? How is my relationship, which we know, like a relationship is almost like it's an animal with 4 legs. We walk the same direction. That's what marriage is. Yeah, get an elephant, and the elephant has a front legs and a back legs. So you don't try to walk in different directions, because it's just you keep walking in the same direction. So take that as a family, this is our team. This supports my practice. So make that into your team, into your practice, supporting your path. But if you take it as a constant serving or constant, like it's constantly give you headache, and you either need to change how you relate to the team, or maybe you are a team of one. You can be by yourself as well. So never think that you are completely complete if you are in relationship. You can be by yourself if there's others who are not supporting your practice, or how you want to live your life. But if you as a family, okay, we are a team, we do this together, and it can help you. And attachment, like I said, it's not like you close the door and walk out and never look back. You cannot do that. The turning away happens slowly. You start seeing this, like, you see the happiness actually. Okay, so the turning away really happens when you start seeing the happiness on somewhere else. Oh, that's happiness. You go towards that quite naturally. It's not like you rip yourself from something. It's just, that's a wrong way of looking at it. The turning away happens slowly, gradually. You see happiness somewhere, and that you naturally go towards that direction.
Is there any questions from the floor?
Any questions? At the back. It's very good.
There's a few parts of this question. So first one is there a difference between detachment, acceptance, not caring, numbing your emotions and feelings, all of that? And if there is, how do you differentiate between all of it? And the third part is, how do you have a healthy relationship with detachment in a way that it's not destructive for your mental health?
Yeah. Well, one thing is, it sounds, and I think we have to be so careful, and maybe I didn't word careful enough and all that. The interesting thing is that there's a ton of compassion in this path. So the root of Buddhism is in compassion. So it's not that we don't care. That's the opposite of what we're doing. You become more caring person because you see the suffering. You see other person who, like, let's say for a relationship, you see them as like, we are very similar kind of people. It's not, you don't have this kind of wrong kind of expectations for the relationship that is somehow making you whole, or you are not afraid of losing that person. You're just sort of like, look, I enjoy being together And just as two individuals coming together as like two ships meeting in the sea, and it was like we just walk this path together and let's just enjoy our time together at the best of our abilities. The compassion is really like, that's why being sort of like a stoic, this kind of I don't care, it's that you have to see that as danger. Buddhism, we have this idea of, sometimes I think it's taken too far, of the upekkha, equanimity. Equanimity, it sounds like you become this kind of, I don't care about anything. No matter what happens there, I don't lose my cool. I don't smile, but I never get angry either. I just have equanimity. I'm stoic about the whole life. And it's the actual opposite. Equanimity is, obviously with the upekkha, I don't want to go too deeply, but it's sort of like you look at it, it's like, this is just my karma, that I'm not so attached to that. Whatever these conditions are here, I'm not attached to that. But have compassion, like have a compassionate relationship, and that really is a lot more healthy relationship instead of attachment, or not caring about, like you can leave any time. It's just like, yeah, walk away. I don't see if I care. What kind of relationship is that? But if you have this kind of like, we are good, sort of more good friends type of attachment. So that would be more healthy relationship. And if things work out well, good. If you don't, well, I can have, because you have kindness and compassion in your heart. So if they find that they need to move on, then you're not so strongly distraught by those things. So never think that the equanimity or this kind of things, that it was like we become cold, we become the opposite. The more you practice, that's why Buddha had so much compassion, because he saw the suffering on others. And for example, the Buddha, when they said that he was like very ascetic when he was practicing, before he became the Buddha, he was like really, really ascetic. And somebody asked the Buddha, did you ever have anger in your heart? And he said, I never had anger. I did not practice this ascetic practices like fasting and doing all kind of things. It never came out of anger. And it's really difficult to see, because for us, quite often, it's almost like we're punishing ourselves. We have another way of relating ourselves. We have this pushing and pushing and pushing. It's almost like a punishing. But if you have a compassion, that's a lot more healthier relationship towards yourself.
Thank you, Ajahn Mudito. Perhaps because you mentioned the end of relationships and marriage, there is a question online, and it is divorce an acceptable solution in Buddhist perspective?
Yeah. Yep. Sure. It is. There's no. We don't have any idea that it's relationships ending. That you should be. Marriage is sacred or something. It's like in a sense it is that you're like, okay, we're doing this best of our ability as a team, but if it doesn't work out, there's nothing wrong with that. It's okay to your karma is yours. Your past lives and your past, all of those things, whatever it is, it's yours. And wherever you do go in life, you always have to remember you're going to be eventually by yourself. They won't follow you to death. Even your achievement, whatever you do in this life, even that doesn't follow in your path for the next life. You eventually go by yourself. So always remember, we do the best of our abilities as a team, as a family, and a relationship. And if it doesn't work out, again, you just continue as your own person, but ultimately there's nothing wrong about relationship and divorce or anything, any of those things. Remember, Buddhism, we don't have sin. Try to always remember that there is no sin in Buddhism. I like the idea that when you die, there's nobody coming and punishing you. There's a bit of it's really a story, but there's somebody just comes to you and after you're dead, and they just put a mirror in front of you, and the only thing you do is you look at the mirror. They don't say anything. The only job they have is just like put a mirror in front of you, and you look at the mirror, and you see the reflection of you. There's nobody telling you anything. What do you see? I'm all right. Yeah, not too bad. I was like, I don't know. I think I want to go to hell. Okay, sure, if you go. You want to go to hell? It's your choice. It's your karma. It's how you relate to that. Nobody else is punishing you. It's you who create the world. So just think about it. That's actually a nice idea, the reflection of you. To see how you see yourself. And, what can you do? How do you perceive it? How do you perceive that person in mirror? With kindness? Or with sort of disgust or not liking? And it's like, oh, no, I can relate to that differently. Nobody is holding you back, relating kindly towards yourself.
Is there any questions in the room here? One last question in the room.
God.
Yeah, they want it to end. All right.
That's it, the ending of all. The ending of talks.
There is one more online if you don't mind.
Okay.
And how do you change your attitude when things change around you that you don't like? So I think this is about things coming to an end, and maybe you don't like it coming to an end. How do you change your own attitude or deal with it?
With mindfulness, meditation, going to Buddhist Society, listening Dhamma talks, and all those things. It just takes time and practice. There's no answer, and you have to do the work. I don't have the answers. We can only point you the way, and you do the practice. That's it. That's the answer. Sadhu, sadhu. So good. Well done.
Thank you, Ajahn.
Okay, let's pay respect to the Buddha and Dhamma Sangha. We just bow 3 times.
Thank you, Ajahn, for stepping in for Chikwan today as well. And for everyone, please join us next door for the lunch dana, and there's an AGM happening this afternoon at 2 p.m. We reopen the hall at 1:15.
Hey, Don.